Now that we've created our pop-up menu, let's make it work using ActionScript. So if we jump into the products movie clip again, first of all, let's note that it has a instance name of products_MC. If we double click to go into that, we'll see something similar to what we've set up before with other movie clip buttons, where we have an up, over, and out state. In the up state, we have a stop action so that it doesn't automatically play through all of these animations. So the up state is basically what the button's going to look like when we're doing nothing to it. When we hover over the button, we're going to trigger the over state where it plays through and we see our menu animate downwards. And then it's going to encounter this stop action in frame 16. When we move our mouse away from the button, it's going to trigger the out state, which is going to animate back out and then jump back to frame 1. Because it's going to automatically loop to frame 1 where it encounters that stop action again. So let's code this. Let's jump back to scene 1. On layer 1, we'll just call this menu. We'll create a new layer here called actions. And then we'll lock both of those layers. Click on frame 1 for the actions layer and hit F9 to open up your actions. Okay, now everything we're going to do is inside the products_MC movie clip right now. So the first thing we want to do is we want to treat this movie clip like a button. So let's turn on button mode. Products_MC.button mode equals true. Now we want to add a couple of event listeners for the over and out state, for when we roll over and roll out from that button. So products_MC dot add event listener. This is going to be a mouse event, so mouse with a capital M, event with a capital E, mouse event dot roll over. And the function we're going to call whenever we hover over that mouse button. Now if we have different buttons that are going to do a specific number of things, well, let me move this out of the way to show you. Our home, about us, and contact us buttons, let's say they're just going to take us to a static page. So we click on any of these three buttons and it's going to do one thing. But when we hover over the products button, it's going to do something entirely different. So it's okay in this instance to make a function that is specific to the products button. So let's create a function after the comma here called products over, like so. Then we'll create another event listener, so products_MC dot add event listener. Oops, there we go. This is going to be a rollout event, so mouse event dot roll out, and we'll create a function called products out. Close your parentheses, semicolon to end your statement. Okay. So we're going to create our first function here, which is called products over. So on line 5 here, we'll create our function products over. Inside the parentheses, we need our event variable, so e colon mouse event. It's not going to return a value, so colon void. And then our opening and closing curly brackets for that function. Now inside the products over function, all we want is the products movie clip to go to the frame labeled over. So we can point to e.currentTarget dot go to and with a capital A, play with a capital P, and then inside parentheses we'll put over inside quotation marks. So close your quotation marks, close your parentheses, semicolon to end your statement. Now we're going to do the same thing for products out, except we're going to go to and play the frame labeled out. So we can just copy this function, Control C, skip a couple lines, Control V to paste. Instead of products over, this is going to be products out. And instead of going to the frame labeled over, we're going to go to the frame labeled out. So now when we hover over the products button, hopefully our menu will expand out. It will go to and play the frame labeled over. And then when we move our mouse away, it will go to and play the frame labeled out. So Control Enter to test. By default, everything looks fine. We hover over products, and sure enough, that animates out. And you'll notice that when we move our mouse over the bottom part here, that we're not rolling out. We're not moving away from the products button, because all of this is considered part of that products_MC movie clip. But when we move away from it, it will animate back up. Now you'll notice that if we hover underneath it here, or above it over here, it's not triggering it. Even though the movie clip with all of these buttons in it, even though that movie clip is up here by default, that mask is making Flash think that it doesn't exist at all. So we can hover up here over where that movie clip actually is, and it won't trigger that rollover event. It will only trigger it if we hover over this visible area where it says products, and then we get our options here. Okay, and when we move outside, it goes back. Now we had some weird things going on there for a second, but I don't see it happening again, so it might not be too much of an issue. Looks alright. So, now that we've done that, we can close this, and the next thing we're going to talk about is how we can actually get these submenu items to work. And the way we set that up is very important. If we go back into we need to unlock our menu layer. If we go back into our products movie clip by double clicking on it, you'll notice that even though our buttons aren't animating on until we get to frame 10, we still have those buttons available here in frame 1. If we unlock one of these two mask layers and then turn off that mask layer, we don't really have to turn it off, we can see it here. We can see that all of these buttons are available in frame 1, and that's very important. If we wait till frame 10 to make them available, let me show you what will happen. I'm going to go back to frame 1, and I'm just going to get rid of this movie clip by hitting delete. Actually, I'm going to hit Control X to cut it, so that way I can just paste it back on later when we're done. So what we've done is we haven't really changed anything. If we test our movie, everything still works just fine. However, when we come in and try to add some code to these buttons, it's going to be very difficult to do. So let's close this, and inside this products movie clip, notice that we'll jump out to frame 15. Actually, frame 10 will be fine. If we go into this movie clip, you'll notice it has an instance name of dropdown_MC. And if we double click to go into that, we can click on one of these buttons, such as pens, and it has an instance name of pens_btn. So let's say we want to do something with this pens_btn movie clip, and we want to add the code for it in scene 1. So we're going to go back to scene 1. We'll click on frame 1 for our actions layer and hit F9 to open up our actions. And then down here, we want to point to that pens button. Well, instead of typing all of this out, we can click up here in our actions panel on this insert target path icon. Looks like a little crosshairs of a gun. If we click on that, we can choose basically what object we want to add actions to. So there's a little plus sign next to products. We're going to look inside products. There's a plus sign next to dropdown_MC, so we'll click on that. And then if we scroll down, we can see the option for pens_btn. That's the one we want to add our code to. So we'll just select that and click on OK, and it will fill that out for us. And it has this .products_MC. The this doesn't really have to be there. In fact, we can just get rid of that if we want to. So we're pointing to products_MC, which is the main movie clip that we're dealing with. Inside that is the dropdown_MC movie clip, and inside that is the pens button. And we want to add some code to this pens button. So pens button dot add event listener, and let's create a click event. So mouse event dot click with a capital C. That's in ActionScript 2, that would be the same thing as the onRelease event when you click and release on a button. So mouse event dot click, comma, space, and let's create a function called onClick. Okay, so close your parentheses, semicolon to end your statement. So we'll create a function down here called onClick. So function space onClick. Make sure you capitalize it the same as you did up here. Function onClick. And then inside parentheses, we need the event variable. So mouse event, close your parentheses, void. In the next line, we'll put our opening curly bracket, skip a couple lines, put your closing curly bracket. And then inside this function, we want the pens button to cause something to happen when we click on it. Well, you can really make it do anything you want, but what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to make a trace statement just to show you that this works. So trace, and then inside quotation marks, well, first of all, inside parentheses, and then inside quotation marks, we'll type pen_btn has been clicked. So you would basically just replace this trace statement with whatever code you want to happen whenever you click on that pen_btn button. So that's pens_btn, sorry, not just pen. So this trace statement is just going to show us an output window that tells us that this button has been clicked whenever we clicked on it. However, notice that it's not going to work. If we hit Control Enter, you'll notice right away we get an error. It says cannot access a property or method of a null object reference at popup_FLA. Basically what it's saying, let's turn this off, is that it can't find this pens_btn button. Why can't it find it? Well, the reason it can't find it is because it's not located in frame 1 of this movie clip. If we go into our products movie clip, this pens button doesn't show up until we get to frame 10. So that's why it's very crucial that this is available to us throughout the entire timeline. So all we need to do is go back to frame 1, and if you remembered, I cut it from the stage earlier with Control X. I'm just going to go to frame 1 and paste it back onto the stage, Control Shift V, so that it's back where it started. Now, if we test our movie, I'm not changing anything in the code, I'm just going to test the movie by hitting Control Enter. You'll notice we don't get that error anymore. And when we hover over the Products button, we get our sub-menu, and when we click on Pens, hopefully we'll get that output window. And sure enough we do. Pens_btn has been clicked. That's the trace statement we typed in. And so that's how you can add code to these sub-menu items of our main menu. So hopefully that has been educational for you. And again, let me point out that there are dozens of different ways to create pop-up menus. This is just one of many ways. So if you don't like this method, you might try to figure something out on your own. But for the most part, this method works really well. And this method makes it really easy, especially on the rollout. You'll find that some of the other methods for creating pop-up menus, they're really easy to get it started. In other words, it's really easy to create something so that when you hover over the About Us button, the pop-up menu shows up beneath it. But the hard part is getting it to disappear when you move away. Because if you move away from the About Us button, you might think that you can just create a rollout event so that when you move your mouse away from About Us, that About Us pop-up or that About Us drop-down menu will disappear. Well, if you set it up so that it's a separate button, when you roll away from About Us to go down to this drop-down menu, that's considered rolling away from About Us, so that menu might disappear. So there are some tricky things you have to do if you try to do this another way. I really like this way of putting it all within a movie clip and handling it that way. But again, just let me point out that there are multiple ways to do this. So with that finished up, we'll go ahead and go to File, Save As, and we'll save this as popup menu 02.fla. We'll save that and we'll move on with the next video.